welcome back to Eclectic Soul Podcast. I am Jen, and this little woman over here sitting next to me, who's even taller than I am, is
Jen. Hello.
Yay! But what we thought we would do with our podcast for a next few podcasts is we will go over the book series, and I will read. We would discuss the book series, or discuss this book at least, and see what you all think. And maybe have you guys give us some feedback if you've read the book series or anything. Or, from what Jen told me, and that's another reason why I kind of want to really get through these books, is that they're going to be making a TV show out of these books. I'm going to let Jen conduct the rest of this, because this is all new to me, and I just, you know, I want to be the one that answers the questions and not ask them.
Okay, so, well, first of all, I'll start, this is new to us both, as far as, talking about a book on podcast, period.
Yes.
I belong to a book club, so talking about books and reading books is not new to me. The reason why we are doing this book series, like Jen said, is there is going to be a TV show that's going to be on Hulu. We don't know exactly when. I'm assuming it's probably going to be next year sometime. They're in pre-production right now, but it's the people that made that TV show Outlander. It's the same producers for that show, and they're going to be working on this one. But another reason why I wanted to do this book series is because it is one of my favorite book series. And this is another reason why I thought it would be a good idea to do it on the podcast, because I've actually read the entire series, and Jen has read none of it. So, I shouldn't say
until
that.
now.
Jen has not read the series except for what she's read for this podcast.
Right.
And so I thought it would be an interesting perspective to get, because depending upon, the listener, right?
Right.
You're going to have people who love the series, and they might want to listen to our podcast. And so they're going to connect more with what I have to say. And then there's going to be people wanting to read this for the first time, and they're going to be connecting with you. So I thought it would be kind of an interesting dynamic for a particular podcast. So,
and it will be something new to do.
Right.
And as I was saying earlier, so far what I read seems very interesting. And I do like a bit of fantasy. So, yeah.
So, to start us off, just in case, and I will preface this now, and I will also mark this as explicit. So all of these particular podcasts are going to be explicit. This particular one probably won't be as explicit as some of the ones in the future that we're going to do. But this is, this book series is an NA book series. And what that means is it's called New Adult. So it's written for people who are in their 20s. Okay, so people who are no longer teenagers anymore, and they've graduated, and they're now older, and they can talk about more adult things.
Right.
So there's going to be a lot of sex, there's going to be, maybe drugs, or, criminal activity and other things that might be difficult topics.
Right.
So
where one's mindset has
right.
to be able to understand, digest, reflect, and let it go.
So if you are under 18, this is not for you.
No, it's not.
So I just wanted to throw that out there ahead of time.
I agree.
Because it is kind of a weird thing, because NA is a new category for literature. Because YA
is young adult.
And people think that NA is considered YA because some people will actually say that it's YA, and then they'll let their, 13-year-old daughter read it or something like that, and they don't realize the adult content that's in it.
Right.
And I don't just mean just sex in general, but there are, rape and
right.
Abuse and other things, even if it's emotional abuse.
Actually, young adult is between the ages of 17 and 20. New adult is 20 to 25, roughly.
Right.
Because normally by the time you're 25, you're done with college, you've sold your oats.
Yeah.
You're looking at having at least a decent 1 to 2 year relationship with someone, or you could possibly be married and already have a kid.
Right.
So, but you're still in that new phase of coming into your adulthood.
Right.
So where everything's legal.
Yeah.
So.
Because I have read this series, when you first read it, and this was something because I remember my mom, right? I got my mom to read it, who she loves reading, but she doesn't like to admit it. But this was something that she even said. So I'm going to just say this in case, you're somebody who is struggling to read the book. The first book is very, very different from the rest of the series. So the first book to me, is more of a prequel to the series. So what it's doing is it's setting up all of the characters and the world that the series is going to take place in. So if the first book is not 100% to your taste, the rest of the series will not be anything like it. The rest of the series is going to be definitely more of an adult-based series. The author, when she wrote the first book, she purposely wrote it as a fairy tale. It is the only book in the entire series that is written that way. So it's specifically written as if you were reading a fairy tale. You will notice that there are elements of Cinderella in it. There's elements of Beauty and the Beast in it. She did this on purpose. So it's basically a modern fairy tale is what it is. You're reading it and it's going to end up like a fairy tale at the end of the book. Okay. But it's the only book that's like that in the series. So it's basically just setting up the rest of the series. So once you get to the second book and then the third and the fourth and the fifth book, that's where the actual real story takes place. So all of those books are really interconnected with one another. This book is almost, I don't want to say standalone, but it's...
Can you say that it's the foundation?
Yeah.
Okay.
The foundation, or like the prequel.
Right.
It's even if you don't like this book, because obviously if you do, great. But if you don't, like my mom, she's not really big on the traditional fairy tale thing. And there are a lot of people like today that are not, because, a lot of people are like, oh, they're feminists or whatever. And I understand that. But it was done on purpose. Okay, so you will see once you get to the rest of the series why the first book is written that way. Okay, so you just kind of have to, if you have a problem with fairy tales and what they portray and that.
Well, I love Disney, so I like fairy tales.
Right. But if you're the kind of person who wants something new, right? You don't like seeing the same old thing, or you don't like the woman being saved by the man, or and like all the traditional stuff that you see in a fairy tale. Don't worry, because it's all done on purpose, and that is not the way that the series is going to go. Okay, so I'm just throwing that out there because my mom brought that up. She got through the first book, but it wasn't until she got to the second book and then the rest of the series where she was like, wow, this is really, really good series. And then when you look back on the first book, it becomes so much more important.
Okay. So what you got for me there, Doc?
Okay. So I just want to bring up that when you first open the book, there's a map. It is the map.
There it be.
Yes, it is. And when you start the book, the main character is Feyre. And Feyre is a mortal.
Yes.
And she lives down at the very bottom of the map there, where it says the mortal lands.
Yup.
And there is a line there that says the wall. And what is that, Jen? Do you remember?
The wall, it divides them from the
Fae.
The fairy realm.
Right.
The Fae, where all the Fae and the High Lord Faes live. So you cannot go through that wall, or you're going to be mincemeat.
Right. So humans used to be slaves to the fairies a long, long time ago. And then there was a war. And of course they mention this in the book, but you don't see it.
Right.
And after the war, there was a treaty. Basically saying that the humans would be forever separated from the Fae, so they would operate separately. And so the wall was built so that the two worlds would not interact with each other.
Correct.
Okay. When this book starts, the world has been like that. I think it's 500 years, if I remember correctly. But I don't quote me on that, because I don't really remember. But I think it was 500 years. There are holes in the wall, so the Fae sometimes do cross over. And there is a treaty, because they're not supposed to interact. So the treaty is not supposed to favor one or the other.
Right.
So it just keeps them apart so that they're not interacting. So the humans are not supposed to interact with the Fae, and the Fae are not supposed to interact with the humans. They're supposed to leave each other alone.
Correct.
Okay. But there are holes in the wall, and so sometimes the Fae will cross, and sometimes the humans cross too. Of course, they never know what happens to them because they never come back. So that's where the story starts. And if you look at the map, there's above the wall, it says Prithian.
Right.
And there's the night court, the day court, the dawn court, the under the mountain, which is in the middle, the winter court, the summer court, the autumn court, and the spring court. So these are where the high lords of Prithian reside.
Right.
So there is a different high lord for each court.
Correct.
And then there is Highburn, which is an island that operates on its own, so that it has its own king or monarchy there. And then you've got more fairy realms that have their own kingdoms over here. The story, though, focuses mostly on the Mortal Lands, which is where Feyre is, and the Spring Court. Okay, so do you have anything you want to add before I continue?
The one looks like Ireland, but whatever.
Good thing that you brought that up. So a lot of people, and then again, this is not ever, as far as I know, this has not been actually officially, confirmed. But a lot of people believe that she mirrored it off of Ireland and England. Which would make sense, because it's Fae, right?
Right.
So, yeah. That doesn't surprise me.
And down here, this would be Wales, which is the mortal world.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be something?
Yeah.
Scotland up here.
And I don't think it's too much of a spoiler, but the more into the story you get, or more into the series you get, the more you will see the different areas. Okay, so obviously the first book is only going to cover certain sections.
Right.
But don't worry, all of those areas will make way more sense to you as you progress through the series.
Okay.
Okay, so I figured, since this is our first time doing this and we have no idea what we were doing, I'm just going to walk us through all of the characters and what's happening in order. The book opens to Feyre.
And she is the youngest of a father of three. They lost their mother when she was real young. The two older sisters, one's really, oh man, if I could reach through the book and smack the crap out of her, I would, because she's nasty. And the other one, Elaine, she just goes in between, but she follows Nesty.
She's like the complete opposite.
Yeah, but she's very quiet, very shy, and very more scared than the other one. Where Feyre, she is she should have been the boy of the bunch. She has no fear.
Right.
She's the one that goes hunting to feed her family. She does whatever she can to take care of her family. And in the beginning, I couldn't understand why this child was taking care of her full-grown father, who was disabled, and her two older sisters, when the older two girls could have done stuff to help them. And here I think she's 14 out of them? Or
no, when the book opens, she's 18.
She's 18, okay.
Yes. Now, but she's been doing it for many years.
Right.
So she was definitely younger.
She was much younger, but still, she's the youngest of the bunch. Right. The other two do nothing. The father used to whittle away, but he's just so out of himself. Got hurt, got beat up by collectors that were trying to collect money on credit that he had. Their mother dies, but what gets me is when I get to that part in the book, the reason why she's taking care of her family is because that was her dying mother's wish.
Mm-hmm.
That was the oath she made with her mom before her mom took her last breath. That just gutted me. And I could relate a little bit to it. So it's like, not that my mother has passed away, but I have had people that I know who've passed away in front of me and that have asked me to take care of their families. And I'm like, how do you expect me to do that? It's not my place to do that. I'm thinking in my head. But, it's something a human would do because it's like their last wish for their family to be healthy and happy and be well looked after and well cared for. And it falls on the hands of this youngest one to feed them, earn money, what she can, and they're very poor, extremely poor. They do not have the best conditions at all. It's horrible.
And they used to be noble.
Yeah, and they used to be noble, and they lost everything they owned, and the only thing they had left of value anymore was the bed that her and her sister sleep in, that her mother died in, that was made out of silver. The headboard and footboard was. So, yeah, I'm just that if that doesn't choke you, I don't know what will, and make tears fall. It is sad in the beginning. But she's so brave and so strong at what she does and what she continues to do. What I read.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So she's hunting.
Yes, she's hunting. And
she sees a deer.
Mm-hmm.
And she's going to shoot it because that's what she does.
Yes, because she goes, that could feed my family for a week or two.
Yeah.
And that's what she wanted. And then all of a sudden
she sees a
big giant wolf.
Right.
At least, and she's also in her head going, is that really a wolf? Is that what I'm really seeing? Or is that Faye? Faye pretending.
Sure.
She's not sure either. And so she has only 3 bows. 2 of them are regular, she has a bow. She has only 3 arrows. 2 of those arrows are regular arrows that you would shoot. And then she had one that is called an ash arrow.
Right.
And it can kill Faye. And, but this wolf is massive. And if she let that wolf get to the deer, her family would starve to death because they hadn't had any food for a while. So she pulls the ash arrow out, she pulls it back, and she lets it flings, and she hits the wolf. And the wolf howls and falls down. And then the wolf looks at her, and then she pulls another arrow out and hits the wolf right in his yellow eye. And I'm thinking, wolves don't have yellow eyes.
Right.
That caught me right there, and I hadn't even gotten any further. And I'm like, uh-oh, she did a no-no. And he died, and she killed the deer with the other arrow, and she took the hides of both of them. She took the deer back, and they had food. They feast that night, and she took the pelts to go sell. I think it was 2 days later, from what I read. I think it was more than 24 hours later. Yeah. Because you have to do something with it for it to be sellable. And the person she sold it to went ahead and offered her more for it than anyone else would have even offered her for him. She did what she had to do. And then she went home. She gave her sisters a little bit of money. Her sister didn't like to do nothing, but she threatened her sister to cut wood. So her sister actually cut wood that morning before they went to the market.
Because she wanted money.
Because she wanted money. She's a greedy little witch, is what she is.
So let's go back to that part.
Okay, what part?
So the when they go to sell the hide. The
hides, yeah.
So the mercenary, right?
Yeah, the mercenary.
Right.
That's
So she approaches the mercenary. And the mercenary ends up giving her a lot more money than it's worth.
Right.
And that's where she has the conversation about the Fae.
Right.
Right. And how she tells her that to stay away from the woods because... and that was something we forgot to mention too, is that they live very close to the wall.
Yes, they do.
So the mercenary basically says, don't, you need
Go
to
in
be
the
careful
woods.
because people have been seeing a lot of fae crossing
Right.
into and killing people.
Mm-hmm.
She gets a lot of money
Mm-hmm.
from the mercenary,
Mm-hmm.
and then she gives the money to
Her
sisters at the market or whatever.
Yeah, because the sisters stood back and they were talking, and then they, kind of eavesdropping in on what's being said. And then when she approached, she actually handed them a little bit, but she wasn't going to give them as much. One wanted new boots who already had new boots, and another one wanted a cloak. I do remember that.
Yeah.
But it's like this girl, she's doing all the work. She needed boots. She needed cloaks. She needed stuff. Her father needed stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They needed food in the house. They needed to make sure that things were taken care of in the home. She was the most grown up adult out of the whole 4 people living in the house, where one was like, the other one was just stingy, and the father was just beside himself. He was at a loss. He, damned if you do, damned if you don't. He just, I wanted to smack him too. It's like, you need to snap out of it. Your wife dies, but yet you got 3 daughters. The 2 oldest you don't do anything with. And then the only one you actually say anything to is the youngest one when she's finally being hauled off.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want your oldest daughter married off to some twit that
Thomas Mandrake,
whose father is an abuser.
Yeah.
So obviously, if the father's an abuser, the son's seeing it, and that's all he learns, then he could possibly be an abuser. But he's also
she could also get abused by the father too.
Exactly.
If they're all living in the same house.
Exactly, and that they're no better off than them because everyone that lives below this wall are poor. And the only way you're going to earn more money is by going more south. I did read that you had to go south to earn more money because everything's thinning out along the wall there. Even though you have the woods there, but like deer have gone down. Rabbits, she goes and hunts rabbits. Everything is like depleting, and they're not making any money. So it's sad.
Now there is the children of the blessed.
Oh, don't even get me started. I was like, who let this religious freaks in here? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But that's what, to me, they are. So to me, they are like the religious group.
They are. And that is because back in the day, the religion was based on the Fae religion. So all the gods and goddesses were what the Fae believed in.
Right.
And so and because the humans have not been around Fae for a ridiculously long period of time, they don't really even know what's true and about the Fae. It's all legends to them, stories, right? So there is a group of people that are kind of like a religious, zealot group.
Right.
And they believe that the Fae are, divine, or they're, and that you want to interact with them. You want to go across the wall and offer your help and, whatever, live with the Fae and stuff like that. And of course, they're a small group. Most people, most humans hate the Fae.
Right. Because of all the killings and everything that they've
done in the past.
Or what they were told.
Right. What they were told. And that's a really big thing we always have to remember too. It is told in first person.
Right.
So Feyre doesn't know
who to believe.
She doesn't know. She only knows what she's heard.
Right.
She's never seen a Fae.
Right.
And neither has anyone that she knows has seen a Fae.
No.
So all of this is all just, what...
speculation, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
So the children of the blessed. They're Fae lovers.
Yes, I know.
And to an extreme.
And I when I read that, I was like, you gotta be kidding me.
Now, there was somebody who did say that they saw, I don't know if she said she saw it. The mercenary? I don't know if she said she saw one or if she was just talking about...
She killed one, I thought.
Someone else, because she mentioned something called the Murtax.
Oh, yeah.
And I wrote down what they were.
Okay.
So they have a body as big as a bear, a head like a lion, and 3 rows of teeth, really sharp teeth.
Yeah.
I think that's really the only Fae that's actually, supposedly has been seen. That from what we know in the story.
Yeah.
And I don't know if the
trying to
mercenary.
remember what it was but I thought she said she killed
She might,
someone, or she knew someone who killed one.
Yeah, that's why I don't remember.
Yeah,
she might have just been saying that somebody.
Right.
She knew.
Right.
Yeah.
And the one, I think another reason why she told her not to go in there, because if you kill based on the law, and I think that's where it stopped, because the sisters kind of intervened.
Yeah.
And then, because I think she was trying to explain to her what happens if you're caught doing that.
No, she doesn't tell it, Feyre.
Oh, okay.
No, she doesn't tell Feyre.
Where's the pelt? I was reading it. All I know is that I was just shocked that, I don't know exactly how much she was given, but it was more than what she ever thought she was going to get.
Right.
And here she was able to, really take care of her family. Mm-hmm. But it didn't turn out so well when she got home later.
And another thing we should mention, too, is you talked about the ash arrows.
Mm-hmm.
So they know that ash arrows, or at least they assume ash kills Fae. Mm-hmm. And then the iron.
Right.
So, but again, they don't know.
Right.
Because
it's speculation.
It's all speculation.
Right.
Okay. So, just want to point that out.
Yeah.
Okay, so when she goes home, later in the evening, this beast creature thing shows up, very angry, banging on the door, whatever.
What looked like another big wolf.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't just bang. He pretty much let himself in.
Oh, but I don't remember. But anyway, and come to find out, the wolf she kills in the forest is a friend of his, and his name is Andrus. Mm-hmm. And because of the treaty, she wasn't supposed to meddle. She wasn't supposed to interact with him, and she kills him. So,
right. But he even asked her. He goes, "Did you know that you killed Faye?" And she goes, "No, and I didn't know anything about the treaty." So he did question her. She did answer him honestly. But what it was, he couldn't believe her because she's this scrawny little thing, and everybody else is big and bigger than her, taller than her, and older than her. And he's like, "Are you sure?" The father was trying to say that he did it, because he knew what would happen to his daughter. At least what speculation has said, the story has said, that you die. You are killed.
Right.
If you take it. And she stepped right out. She goes, "If I did it and you need to kill me, then take me outside and kill me. Be done with it."
Right.
And he's like, "Oh, so you actually are willing to die for your family, Mm-hmm. And I think it kind of caught him off guard. Because she wasn't afraid to take that, because she goes, "Look, you asked me if I knew I was killing a Fae. It was a wolf to me. Mm-hmm. That's what I killed.
Right.
And he was about to steal the food that would feed my family.
Right.
So I do not know nothing about this treaty." So he goes, "Well, you have one of two things. You can die now, or you can come with me and live. Mm-hmm. And if you come with me and live, you're going to come across the wall, but you can't come back." So
it's like a life for a life thing.
Yeah, it is. That's what he says, a life for a life. So she ends up going and lives with him.
So you're just like, and we're done. No,
no, we're not done. But it's quite interesting because even though she didn't want to leave, her dad kind of begged her, but her dad's finally opened up and was somewhat of a father, and I'm doing quotes here because to me he wasn't really a dad, because he forgot being a dad and knew what it was being a dad when his wife died. But it's like, you don't have to do this, but I really thank you for everything you've done, type of deal. But as she goes with this guy, I think she's bound and put on a horse. Yeah. But it's not bound, you can see. It's all it's all magic.
Right. And he does eventually put her to sleep.
Yeah, he puts her to sleep so she doesn't see exactly where in the wall that they go through. Right. I mean, because the wall is magical, the only way you can walk through that wall is by finding an opening. And I don't think he had to go find an opening. I think what he did is he opened the wall himself and went through. But that's just my, how I felt when I read the book.
Right.
But I find it ironic that when they get back to his place, she's like, doesn't really want to be there, but she has no choice. From the moment she woke up from the sleep that he put her in while she was still on the horse, she was thinking about how she can get down off the horse, bolt out the gate, and run home.
Right.
And it's like, he goes, you wouldn't get far. You need to eat. And so he wanted her to eat.
She doesn't want to trust the food because she's heard that you're not supposed to eat food that the Fae give you.
Right. She's heard all these stories. And he goes, it's good food. You can eat it. And this whole table's all lushed out with all types of fruits and vegetables.
And he lives in
meats,
a manor.
In a big manor. And, oh, look, I achieved the goal.
And the other thing that she notices when she arrives is, in the mortal realm, it's winter.
Yes.
And when she crosses the wall,
it's all nice and
it's spring.
Spring and shiny, and there's flowers and birds and butterflies and all kinds of things going on around her. It's beautiful and it's warm. And she's like, so he goes, well, you really need a bath. So she's given a bath.
Well, she has a servant.
Servant that takes care of her.
Her name is Alice.
Yes. And she's also an elf.
They're all Fae. Yeah. Different kinds of Fae.
Right.
Yeah.
But she's a servant Fae. So,
she's not a high Fae.
Right. So she's working for the high Fae. Mm-hmm. But he doesn't I don't think he's not the only one that lives there, or his friend just visits often.
No. Before we continue. Let's talk about the mask. And we haven't even we haven't even mentioned his name yet. So let's pause there. Okay, so she finds out that his name is Tamlin.
Tamlin.
And I'm not going to say too much because when we do another episode, we'll talk more about this. But I did mention that the book series does have elements of Cinderella in it. It also has elements of Beauty and the Beast in it. But because he is Tamlin, if you know the story of Tamlin, you will also know this story. So, all of these stories are all kind of happening at the same time. We'll talk more about this in another episode, but Tamlin, for those of people who don't know, is actually a real Fae mentioned in mythology. I'm not going to go into it too much because I don't want to give anything away. If you actually go and Google it, you'll actually spoil most of the book for yourself. So I don't recommend you do that, but...
now I'm going to go do it.
No!
Shouldn't have told me because you know me. I'm like, oh,
because
really?
He is technically the Tamlin from mythology. Okay, so obviously not 100% to the T because the mythology, there's different variations of the story that was told.
Right.
But he is technically Tamlin from mythology. But he has a mask on.
Well, all of the Fae wear a mask.
Right. That she has seen.
And it's because of the treaty and something they broke. So
she learns that later, that there's some sort of blight on the land where the magic is not working correctly.
I read up to that part, I do believe.
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
She doesn't find that out until a little bit later.
Right.
That there's the magic isn't working.
Right. Like it should. Because somebody did a no-no.
So apparently they were at least the Fae that are in his estate or his manor. We don't know about any of the other Fae anywhere else yet. But at least the ones that she has seen, they were at a masquerade party, and then that night is when the magic kind of went all wonky. And so that's why the masks are stuck on their face.
I'm sorry, but who else was at a masquerade party and denied someone a place to sleep, and then he turned into a beast? And then there was a beautiful rose kept tucked in underneath the glass. I mean, there's so many elements of this. And that's actually one of Jen's favorite Disney stories, Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, Beauty and the Beast. Yeah.
Mine's Cinderella.
Well, then there we go.
Yeah, I know.
So the Alice, the servant, also has
a mask.
And all of the servants, because they're not high Fae, they're different types of Fae.
Right.
They all have bird-styled masks on.
Yeah. That's what I found weird.
Yeah.
His was kind of from what I was trying to understand, it was a little, not beastly, but it was like a majestic, like.
I think, wasn't there like leaves and
it was
stuff on it, very spring looking.
Yes, it was.
And we forgot to mention. Okay, so he looks like a typical what you would think of an elf from Lord of the Rings.
Right,
to me.
right.
He's blonde haired.
Yes,
He's
beautiful is what he is, but most elves are. I like elves.
He's not an elf, but he looks like one.
Yes. But fae are elves to me, so.
Well, they're.
There's all different type of fae, but
so
what's that buddy's name of his that stays there, and he's really a asinine. Lucian.
I
even the name Lucian.
So I have a couple of favorite characters in the series, and Lucian's actually one of them. But yeah, Lucian is part of Tamlin's. He's not a servant, but he's like an emissary or something like that, or ambassador or something like that. But he has like a reddish auburn colored hair.
Yeah, he's got like red hair. He's fire hairs from what I would read. His
and he
like
still
fire.
looks like an elf.
Yeah,
he's high fae. Basically, anyone who's high fae is going to look like an elf from Lord of the Rings.
Yes,
essentially. And he has a fox mask on.
Yes, Kasumi.
Is there something else you wanted to say about Lucian?
Well, in the beginning, you grow to hate him right away because
a metal eye.
Oh, does he? I don't remember if I read that.
He has a metal eye because remember he lost an eye.
Ah.
So he's a metal eye.
All I know is he's kind of rude. He wanted her dead, but he can't do nothing to her because the other one has forbidden anyone to touch her.
Right, and he made a deal.
Right, he made a deal. Yeah.
Yeah, the whole bargain thing is very important with family.
Yes. I found this on the web.
No one asked you. Bugger off.
So yeah, he's a little bit more sassy.
He's very sassy.
Yeah, he's very sassy. But he's
when you first meet him.
Yeah.
But by the time I read the next few chapters, and they actually go out, I think, on a hunt together, or they go do something together, that she starts warming up to him, and he starts warming her up, as in,
right.
They're easier to, because she was all out to kill him. If I remember correctly, she wanted to get away, because she would be the easier target to get rid of, so she could get away.
It seems like she kind of goes through these thought processes of like, okay, I'm going to escape. But then she kind of talks herself out of it because she realizes, okay, there's so many dangerous creatures and stuff that she doesn't know anything about. Right. And so how is she, and she doesn't even know how to get back.
Right.
So she's like, okay, well, maybe if I can find a way to get out of this bargain, maybe there's a loophole. So she focuses on that. And she figures that if she can get Lucian to side with her, he can talk to Tamlin to get him to figure out something.
Right.
So she goes to find him. And that's when they go on the hunt. And that's basically to try to get him to, like, warm up to her.
Yeah.
And he already knows, because he pulls
it right out. He says, are you just you're here to butter me up?
Yeah.
You know?
And it's because the Fae know that
get on my good side.
The Fae know that humans hate them.
Right.
So they know that, the fact that she's being nice is a little odd to begin with. Right. Because the Fae do, the humans do hate the Fae. I mean, that's...
Well... by what they've been told.
Right.
They've never been given a reason not to hate them.
Right.
Everything has always been against them.
And she assumes that Lucian is really, really old. And he actually takes offense to that if there's a line in there.
Yeah,
he's like, I wasn't even like the war, because she's like, were you in the war? And he's like, I'm not that old.
Yeah.
So he wasn't around during the time when humans were slaves.
Right. Yeah. All I know is that, it does get good. I enjoyed what I read so far.
So, but it doesn't work.
No,
because he's
on to her.
Yeah, he's on to her. But they do kind of like get along more.
They do.
And Alice says to kind of give him a hard time, and she doesn't understand in the beginning, but then afterwards she realizes that's kind of the way he warms up to you. Is he likes it when people like kind of like debate with him and be kind of snarky.
Yeah.
So
that's because then what you're giving him, you're being a little like him. You're letting down your defenses. You're defending yourself, which shows that you do have a thought process. You do have the will to stand up for yourself. You do have a mind that you're ready to open and speak about. So, and that type of person can also, with everyday knowledge of being around them, can decipher for themselves, okay, is this a good thing, is this a bad thing, is this person going to be bad, is this person going to be good, is the stories I heard completely correct, or are they, because they've been handed down for so many hundreds of years, incorrect? Get to know who they are and then work your process. But she's still not willing to fully give in to them.
Right.
It's all her plan, as she thinks it's her plan, but I think it's his plan to make her think that. But that's how I read it, you know.
Yeah.
So
Okay. No, I think you're good. Also, this is where she starts to learn a little bit more about the different types of fae. She finds out that there is a fae called the Surreal. The Surreal, this is when she's on the hunt with him, right? And the Surreal, supposedly, is a fae that you can actually trap, and it will answer your questions. Any questions, if you can trap it. There's also another fae that they encounter on the hunt that's called the Bog. And this is the one where he says, don't look at it, don't react. And so they're on horses and they just keep going. And it's like talking to her in her mind, telling it to look at me.
Right.
And this is like a fae that's all about fear. So it kills you with fear.
Right.
So she learns about that one. And then Lucian tells Tamlin about it, and Tamlin goes and kills it. And that's when she realizes that there are different types of high fae.
Right.
Because Lucian's not strong enough to kill the Bog, but apparently Tamlin is.
Because
So
Tamlin's much older.
So again, these are all just things that you're kind of absorbing and learning about.
Yeah.
There's also another very important thing about the fae that she learns is that Tamlin mentions she. So there's somebody who's more powerful.
That's the one that runs the whole thing.
That I think, was it Tamlin or was it Lucian? I don't remember, but one of them mentions, I think it's she or her, right? Where they get nervous and say that she might find out or something like that. So so Feyre now realizes, she's thinking, okay, who is this person? This has got to be somebody that's even more important or more powerful than Tamlin, right? She doesn't know who that person is.
But if she ever found out that Tamlin let her live and is living with him and killed so-and-so, that
we don't
she
know?
may... No, I know, but, you know, she could possibly come and kill her. And there's nothing Tamlin can do anything about it. But who knows? You got to finish reading the book, I guess.
Okay, so did you stop there or did you read chapter 10?
I read all the way to the end of 10.
Okay, so in chapter 10, which is the last chapter we're covering on this episode, this is where she's waiting for Tamlin to come back. He's gone to kill the Bog.
Right.
And while she's waiting for him to come back, she looks out the window. She thinks it's Tamlin. And she looks out the window and her father's there.
Yes. And
then the chapter ends.
Yeah. And I'm like, what the hell? Has to be another type of fae. Because how would her father find his way to her?
I don't know.
Has to be a fae. Has to.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I enjoyed it. I don't know how many of you want to take on this series. You can find these books on Amazon as well. If you want to audio of them, is that where you found them? The audio?
The audio is on Audible, which is owned by
Audible.
Amazon.
Okay.
And you can actually, it's cheaper, I find, unless you have an Audible membership. If you don't have an actual, like, I think it's a premium membership, if you just create an Audible account, it's cheaper to buy the Kindle version and add Audible narration to it. That's a little tip.
Okay.
If you want it cheaper. It's cheaper than just going to Audible directly and buying the book by itself.
And if you want the actual books, if you can't get them off of Amazon, they are available at Barnes & Noble.
Yeah.
So.
And it's a really popular series. You could pretty much find the book series anywhere.
The author's name is Sarah J. Maas.
Maas.
It's but one S.
That's how you pronounce it.
Really?
Yeah, Sarah J. That's how I've heard people pronounce it. Sarah J.
Because with a double A, you would think it'd be Moss.
Yeah, I don't know.
Weird. Okay, Maas. Anyway, we'll have some link, or at least the name of the author, in the notes.
The other thing that and this was something you made me, you mentioned.
Okay.
And I'm going to bring this up every episode too, is I actually have a Spotify playlist that's dedicated.
Yes.
Dedicated to this series. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mention where we've read up to in this playlist so that you can follow along. So the playlist is basically, I went through and I found music that actually tells the story all the way through, from start to finish, the entire series. So the music actually tells the plot in order. So we're literally at the very beginning. We only have gotten to two, maybe three. We're encroaching on the third one. So we're only covered 3 songs.
But I was going to say,
Yes.
Towards the end, before we closed out, that Jen does have a playlist of this on Spotify that I was going to share it to our Facebook only. We're not going to put it on our IG account. It's just going to be on Facebook because it's hard to put a link when we already have one link on there for people to be able to read. So if you go to our Facebook page, you will be able to go and look at our Spotify account. Jen's Spotify account, that playlist that Jen's created, and she can let you know where we're at. She can update it and let you know what songs we are on or what we've covered.
Yeah. And I will mention them in the podcast too.
Yeah.
The name of the playlist is called A Court of Feels and Fangirling. And we are coming up to I'll Keep You Safe, which is the 3rd song. Mm-hmm. And then that's as far as we've pretty much gotten there.
But we hope you join us on this journey. It's come to the end of our podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode. We hope you continue to follow us along, and we hope you join in. Until the next time. Bye-bye. I'm blowing kisses here.
Bye.
Blessed be. And if you would like to contact us, you may do so at our email, eclecticsoulpodcast@gmail.com. Our Instagram account is Eclectic Soul Podcast. Our Facebook is eclecticsoul.org. Our YouTube is Eclectic Soul.
If you want to reach me, my personal website is Music and Mystery. My SoundCloud is the SoundCloud page, the soundcloud.com/Jennifer-Feltman. My Facebook is @Music and Mystery, and my Instagram is @Music and Mystery.
And if you would like to reach me personally, my Facebook is @JustCallMeJinJin. My Instagram is @CallMeJinJin or look for Goddess. And my Twitter is @JenSullivan. Thank you and have a blessed day.
Blessed be.